there's no failure. There is only feedback. So if you operate from the space of like, I can't fail at this, or even if I invest in this for 3 months and I realize that this is not for me, that's feedback.
Welcome to Purpose. I'm your host, Corie Clark. I'm just a normal girl who decided to go for it. I created a thriving business from the ground up without sacrificing my sanity, and I believe that you can do the same. You were created on purpose, for a purpose, and I fully believe you can turn that purpose into profit. Each week, I'm going to bring you practical advice to help you live your life and grow your business on purpose. Welcome back to another week of Purpose. I'm your host, Corie Clark, and today's episode, I am interviewing my friend, Kari. Now, Kari and I are in a mastermind together, and I'm so excited for you to listen to this interview and just to hear how amazing she is. I do have her official bio that I'm going to read you in just a second, but I wanted to remind you guys that the early bird tickets for Purpose Babe Live are the early bird pricing is expiring soon. So if you haven't gotten your early bird seat yet, go to korieclark.com/live to get that seat. I also have announced a few speakers, so make sure you get over to the website, check out the speakers. I have more announcements coming soon. I'm announcing our MC later this week. You guys, I'm so excited. This event is going to be amazing. The women who are coming, the women who are speaking at the event are just like top of the line experts and people who are going to pour into you. So I am so excited about this event. I'm just kind of bummed that it's so far away. So this gives you plenty of time to plan your trip out to Southern California. You can once you get your early bird ticket, you'll get a link to discounted hotel rates and all that good stuff. So get your seat now before the price goes up. Anyways, today I am interviewing my friend Kari. Her name's Kari Keating. She is amazing. She's seriously this woman. When I read in her bio, you're going to be like, what in the world? She is killing it at being a mom, at being a wife, and at being a business owner. So Kari is a branding expert and business coach. She's the founder of The Circle. She is host of the top-rated Work Hard, Mom Hard podcast. She's an international keynote speaker, wife, and mother of 3. After 17 years in her corporate career at companies like Nike, Quiksilver, Lululemon, and Nordstrom, Kari found herself time poor and unfulfilled. She set out on a path to find a career that would allow her to use her sharp business acumen and strategic thinking while also allowing her to be more available to her children. In 2014, with 2 babies under 2, she left her corporate career behind and launched herself into entrepreneurship and began her coaching career. Leaning on almost 2 decades in the corporate world, she dedicated herself to helping women across multiple industries turn their ideas into thriving businesses. She's passionate about helping women clarify their messaging and programming so it's irresistible to those who need it. She's focused on revamping her clients' money and leadership mindset so their confidence matches their impact and income capabilities. And she and her clients work diligently to co-create the infrastructure of their business so they can handle leads, sales, and fulfillment with ease and joy. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, here is my interview with the amazing, the beautiful Kari Keating. Kari, thank you so much for being on the show today. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. It is my pleasure and honor to be here.
Yes. So Kari and I are in the same mastermind, and we have been trying to do this for so long, and we're finally interviewing each other. So I'm really excited about that. So you guys will have to tune into her podcast as well because she interviews me, and now it's my turn.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited. Kari, tell us a little bit about who you are, who you serve, what you love to do.
Okay, awesome. So my name is Kari Keating, as Corie said. I am a mom of 3 boys under the age of 7. I had 3 boys in 3 years, so my life was very chaotic. I am a wife. We live here in Southern California, North County, San Diego, in the Carlsbad area. And I grew up here, but for 8 years I lived in Oregon. And so I'm like, half of my heart is in the Pacific Northwest. We are big snowboarders. My husband has been a part of that industry for his entire career. And so we're big into snowboarding, big into action sports, big into being outside and adventure and camping. And my life is constant chaos. And it was about, 5 years ago, I was working for Nike. I was managing millions of dollars in business and, had a multiple 6-figure career with multiple 6-figure stress. I had 2 kids under the age of 2, and I was paying $30,000 a year in childcare, and was just like looking out the window of I remember this one day, I was like looking out the window of my office, just staring at the rain falling, because it rains like 360 days out of the year in Oregon. Mm-hmm. And I just remember asking myself, or saying to myself, like, is this really it? Like, is this, I had been working since I was actually 13 years old. My father was a minister. We had 4 kids. And so we didn't have a ton of money. And so if I wanted to have what my friends had at a very young age, I went to work. And so I just plugged myself into the corporate paradigm. Like, even through college, I worked, I made really great money at a very young age. And I just kind of became addicted to success and addicted to just being successful and climbing the corporate ladder. And so I found myself like in a dream job, what many would consider a dream job. I mean, Nike's an incredible company. And like, once you get there, it's kind of well known that like, once you're there, you're there for life. And I even remember like my very first day at work, like being on campus, I was like, oh my gosh, I made it. Like, I'm in this iconic brand and I've done so much work for my entire life. And here I am. But as I sat there that day, it was like 5 or 6 years later, I'm just like, I've now got 2 kids and I'm sitting there like, wow, I've done really, really well for myself. But I know what the next 10 years is going to look like. And I'm kind of at max capacity. If I want to have any more children, it'd be a struggle. That's a lot of money to pay in childcare. I am busting at the seams because every break I'm spending, I'm either pumping or trying to catch up the work that I should have been doing when I was pumping. And, it was just like, it was really time poor and I was really exhausted. I'm telling you the lengthy version, I guess.
It's okay.
And so I just started asking, I started asking God, like, okay, I'm ready and I'm open for something new. And I don't know what that looks like, but I'm open for you kind of surprising and delighting me. And I thought about starting a blog. I thought about, opening up a sales agency because I had been in sales and buying most of my life. And I thought about going into real estate because my parents own a real estate firm. My father was a minister and then became a realtor, just to close that loop. And so I just like started thinking about all of these things. And I'm like, you know what, I'm open to it coming and it'll be super clear when it comes. And not a couple of weeks later, my sister-in-law came to visit me and she had this incredible physical transformation. And I'm like, what did you do? And she's like, oh, those products that this girl's always selling on Facebook. I'm like, oh, I hid that girl a long time ago. Like, I don't want anything of those pyramid schemes. She's like, no, it really works. And so long story short, I started using these products. I started naturally sharing them because that's just what we do as women and especially as moms. And I got rid of my baby weight and I just felt so good in my skin. And I was like, within 3 months making more money than I was making at Nike. And I said to my husband, I'm like, can I go home now? Can I just go home and like figure this out, please? And I never in a million years thought I would get into network marketing. Like I thought it was a pyramid scheme. I never wanted anything to do with it, but like so many things clicked into place for me. And most importantly, it was that someone casted a vision of what my life could look like if I was able to hustle hard enough. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to go home. I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to be a rock star. Like I have been such an incredible employee. I have a business degree. I got this. And I got home and I absolutely sucked at being an entrepreneur.
Oh no.
I left my 6-figure salary behind. I left the corporate world behind and I came home and I just, I didn't, I like to say like when you're an employee, you have very clear parameters around what the expectations of your job. Like, you know where the line is, and you know how to go over the line, right? Like, you know that if you did X amount, you would go over, and if you exceed, then you get a bigger bonus and all that stuff. So it's very clear. Well, in entrepreneurship, there is no freaking line.
No.
You have no idea if what you're doing is like, there's no KPIs, there's no, like, there's just, I mean, and there are, but you have to put them in place, and it takes time in order to find that and all this stuff. And so I really, really was struggling, not to mention that, but I ended up getting pregnant again. And so here I am a year later, a year after leaving corporate America. And I'm like, okay, I've got to figure this out. I need help. I don't know what I'm doing. I now have 3 kids under the age of 3. I have no childcare, no family around me. And I'm just like really struggling. Not only that, but we did not adjust our lifestyle when I came home. And so we started racking up debt because I thought my business was going to work. I thought it was going to continue growing. I thought it was going to be all of these things. And so we never adjusted our lifestyle. So here I am with the pressure of tens of thousands of dollars of debt and me not knowing what the heck I'm doing.
Wow.
And I'm just like, I need help.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it was going to look like. I could not afford to hire a coach. I talked to one potential coach, and he like tried to strong arm me into like, and like fear monger me into like paying him all this money. And I was just like, that's not working for me. And what happened was, a woman that in the network marketing industry, specifically in my company, that I really looked up to, and I really aligned with the way that she spoke and how she led and everything that she stood for, and her integrity, opened up a community, a membership program, essentially. And it was $99 a month. And I remember like it being the biggest investment I had ever made in myself. And it was so massive, but I was just like, I don't even really have the money to do this, but I'm going to do it. There's something about it. I'm feeling called that this is like the right move for me. So I joined the community. And because that investment was so big for me, I leaned in so hard.
Yeah.
I showed up for every training. I read every single post. I commented on everybody's post. I just served and like received so much in that space. And it was about 6 months, I started finding some clarity and some momentum and some spaciousness, and started really getting more grounded in a space of gratitude and an understanding that like all of this was working for me, and crafting my message, and also kind of helping me get more clear on who I wanted to help and how I wanted to serve. And it was about 6 months after that I had a woman in the group. We had like a clarity session, and I was like, okay, it's time I go a little bit deeper into this investment. I had built belief that the investment works if I work it. And so I was like, I'm ready to hire a coach. I'm ready to kind of do more of a one-on-one in-depth experience. And so I hired this woman, and we were 2 sessions in, and she's like, girl, and I was like so focused on my network marketing business. I'm like, I'm going to be a millionaire. This is my path, and there's no other paths. Right.
Yeah.
And this woman was like, you have so much business acumen. I mean, I had managed millions of dollars of product. I had worked with executives at Nike, and other companies. Like, I had been in the boardrooms with a lot of people, and my acumen and my skill sets were very sharp. And she's like, you need to use what you have to help other people. I'm like, what does that look like? And, we talked a little bit about when I was recording the podcast with you just a minute ago, just about how when you look back on your life and when you're trying to find your purpose, and these moments of like, where did I feel like most, where I was serving most, or I was most excited, and people would always come to me for advice. I would always be the one, like, I'm making this decision. How should I make it? Like, how do I come up with a more clear answer? Or this is what I'm going through this. How can I help find some spaciousness in my thought patterns and in my heart and everything else? And so, she's like, you need to be coaching people. I'm like, okay, I don't have a website. I don't have certification. Like, how would I even do that? She's like, I don't know. Let's just put a post on social media. I mean, she wasn't a business coach. She was like more of a life coach.
Oh, okay.
And so she's like, put a post on social media and see what happens. And so I did. And the next day I had 2 paying clients. So I didn't have a certification and I didn't have a website, but I did have an audience, because I'd been building my network marketing business for long enough and super consistent in that, and had success, that I had a pretty engaged audience of people who were ready for me to help solve a problem for them. And so that was about 4 years ago. And since that time, I have been really honing this practice of getting clear on exactly who I serve and the problems that I solve for them. And so it's taken me about 4 years to find that like really deep, like conviction level of clarity, right? Where it's like, I know this is where I'm most potent and this is where I'm most powerful for people. But it was a back and forth a little while with my coaching business and my, network marketing business. I decided a year ago to shut my network marketing business down and like burn the boats and go all in my coaching business. And so, yeah, that's kind of just brings us to where we're at today. So I serve female entrepreneurs in the growth phase of their business. So they've already got a business plan. They've already got a business model. They're maybe earning like high four figures a month, and they are ready to like really blast off into 5-figure months. And so I really serve them in that space, helping them find the clarity and the conviction and the courage and everything else. And like I call it like it's mechanics and it's mindset. So there's a lot of mindset work that I do, but then a lot of it is the mechanics. Like what's the model? What's the marketing machine you plug into? What does your email structure look like? All of the like business pieces. Cause I'm so like feminine and masculine, like like everything I think.
I'm so the same. I'm like right brain, left brain, like down the middle. But it is so true because like your business needs both. You could have the best funnel in the world, but if you like can't like get through the mindset work and actually get past yourself to put it out there in front of people, like you don't have a business.
Yeah. Well, even when I launched my membership, what was it, like a month ago, the entire week, I just spent like sitting in prayer and meditation, like just like praying to God, like use me, like go where you would have me go, have me say what you would have me say, like let me serve in the way that I'm meant to serve. And just to keep my mind on straight, because I felt very exposed, just as I know you launched your event, and it's like, it just feels very exposed. And when you're putting yourself out in these big ways, it can feel extremely vulnerable. And so like having that protection of your heart and your mind is so important. And so it really is like when we're out here doing big things, and big is arbitrary. Like it's completely subjective. What's big to you might be like, I'm hosting some girlfriends for dinner and we're going to chat about something that's important to us. Or it might be like, I'm hosting a 500 person event.
Yeah.
It could be whatever is big for you in that day.
Yeah. It is relative, but as soon as you step into something new, you feel so exposed and it's so scary. Okay. I want to go back. There was 2 things and I don't have my notepad. So I was like, remember. But okay. So the first thing actually goes way back because I was super intrigued when you mentioned that you started working when you were 13. And I was just curious on like what that kind of effect, because I'm super intrigued by like people's money stories and how we were raised. And so if you feel like that at 13, you probably felt like if I work really hard, I can have money and have the things I want. And if that's what led you to that point of, like what that kind of story looked like for you.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I'm currently writing my book, and I just wrote a chapter on this. So it's super fresh. And actually just going back and writing it, I was like, I was texting one of my girlfriends who like, we both do the same work. And so we're constantly texting each other of like, I saw this, or this is what my breakthrough was today. And I was texting her all day, like, oh my gosh, I'm experiencing this. But yeah, so at a very young age, gosh, I think when I was like 10, my mom would always say, oh, I was, and just roll with the story. Cause I will close the loop, but my mom always said like, oh yeah, I was a captain of my cheerleading squad. It was so awesome. And so I, from a very young age, was like, I'm going to be a cheerleader. That's going to be my jam. I mean, I was super athletic and I played a ton of different sports, but cheerleading was my jam. And I started my middle school cheer squad. And in the 8th grade, I was, I tried out for the varsity team or the high school squad. And I was the only freshman to make varsity. And it was like this big thing. And then I got invited to be on I had this dream, like my dream was to cheer for Kansas, to be a Jayhawk, because they had won national that year in 95. And so I was like, this is happening. I'm going to get a cheerleading scholarship. And I am going to be like so badass. Like, this is my jam. And so I got invited to be a part of a competition squad, a traveling competition squad. It's like one of the most prestigious in Southern California. And my parents, like, I remember coming to my parents like, oh my gosh, my dream is happening. I'm going to be part of the squad, and I'm going to like, this is going to set me up for college. And they said to me, like, I'm sorry, we can't afford it. And I was just like, wait, what? No, like, you don't understand. Like, this is everything that I want it to be. Like, this is everything that I want to do. Like, how can we not afford it? And we were actually going to private school at the time too. Because my father was a minister, we got a discount, and then my mom worked at the school, so we got a discount. And so a lot of my friends were, traditional private school. Like, we were going there to get a Christian education, but a lot of the people who were going there were just going there for a private school. So they were like loaded. So we were the poorest people in the school as well. And so, I kind of came into that awareness around the same time, just in junior high, when you start to realize like, oh, I'm going to my friend's house who are like living on the cliffs in Cardiff, California, or La Jolla, or Rancho Santa Fe, and they have horses and all this stuff. And I'm like, it's not my reality. So here I was like, okay, well, my dream is to go and cheer Kansas, but that's not going to happen if I can't get on this other cheer squad. But maybe it will happen because I'm still in varsity, I'm still in varsity cheer, and that's awesome. And then that year they took us out of private school and put us in public school for high school. So for an entire year, I didn't even get to cheer. And it kind of just like it just chipped away so big at my dream. And that was the year that I was just like, I am not going to let this happen to myself again. Like, I'm not going to let finances get in the way. And I can't say that I was super conscious of it. I was just like, I'm going to go to work so that I don't get no's from them anymore. I'm just going to go make my own money. And so I worked at my best friend's mom's boutique and just started making money at a very young age. And by 20, I was at 20 years old, 19, 20. Yeah. Like, I just graduated high school and I was making $50,000 a year.
Wow.
So it was like, But then it's funny because it came full circle, because what happened to me when I launched this new dream of network marketing, and we did not adjust our lifestyle, was because I was still in this mind space of like, I'm not going to let money get in the way of me launching this dream, rather than having this like really practical application to like, okay, well, I don't want to put us in debt to like make this dream happen. And it wasn't like, it wasn't anything crazy. It was just like, okay, I'm going to go on this trip and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to go rub elbows with these people. And we're still going to go on these vacations, and we're still going to have these cars, and we're still going to do all this. And so it's interesting to see it come full circle, but that's why I started working that young.
Yeah. I love that you just brought that up, because it's so crazy. Like the swings, like I swear, like in our business and finances, like it is like these crazy, like pendulum swings of like, oh my gosh, we're like, making millions, to like, oh my gosh, where did everything go? And it's hard. It's like that whole entrepreneur line, like that you said, like there's nobody to check in with besides yourself. And it's like, sometimes you can be like the worst boss you've ever had. And sometimes you can make really stupid decisions. And sometimes you can make really good decisions. But I think like, it's so important that you brought that up, the money mindset stuff. Like we have to remember, like there's a practical side. Like, yes, we need to be operating from a place of abundance and like believing that like our success is inevitable. But then there's other times where like, we've had like major reality checks, like, okay, like abundant thinking and acting aren't always like, it's such a fine line, like balancing that.
It really is. And I think for me, like in terms of money, and I'll share with you this because it just feels like somebody needs to hear this. Like what came through for me in writing all of this out and in writing that chapter was getting to a space of releasing my parents' money story and understanding that it's not mine. And like, by me growing and getting control of my finances, and also like living in a state of money working for me, is not me leaving my parents behind.
Yeah. That's really good.
And that was like the biggest aha for me was like, oh my gosh, because it happens on like the subconscious level. It's not something like, no, we all think consciously like, oh no, I want to have money because I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to serve this, and good people make good money. They do great things. But on a subconscious level, we have all of these patterns and programs that are happening that are saying like, no, if you do that, and sometimes you don't know they're there until you know they're there. It's like, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been on an energetic subconscious level holding myself back because I was afraid to leave my parents behind and I wanted to protect them. And in reality, the opposite is true, that if I truly allow myself to live in abundance by managing my money better, like being in better alignment with the integrity of how I'm using my money, right? And just having some really honest conversations, I'm able to free up more space and therefore give them permission to do the same, because it's a hard role to switch when you as the child become the teacher of your parent. But it's so important to, at least for me, I mean, this was just a couple of days ago that I came to this. And it's funny because when I figured it out, I'm like, wait, I know that. I actually know, it was something that I'd never heard before, but I'm like, yep, totally. That feels really, really familiar.
Yeah.
Just getting to the space of releasing it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And then the other thing that you brought up that I wanted to touch on as well was, when you said like making that $99 investment was so huge. And I know like I've been there when, like investing in a course or in a membership, and it's like, oh my gosh, the budget's tight, but it's like truly learning the difference between an investment and an expense. And when you do actually like, I know there's like a lot of women who that's always their, reason for not joining something or whatever, signing up for something. So many times, like that's their excuse is money. And like, I get it. Like if your budget is like literally to the line item, like, you're living on rice and beans, then I would never want somebody to make an investment that's not wise. But there's such a difference. And when you put skin in the game, like what you said, like you showed up. If you were getting free coaching, you probably wouldn't have showed up to all the calls because you just don't value them.
Yeah, 100%. And like, here's the thing, like as women, if I need to get my nails done, I'm going to find the money to get my nails done because I care about how I look. Right. Like, I mean, and there was a time that was my program. I was just like, I don't care. I will find money to get my hair done. Like, I'm not going to walk out the door looking like this. Like when it's important to us, we will find it.
Yes.
And so it's like, I just always, lovingly ask people like, what is important to you? Like at that point, it was so important for me to find the clarity. It was so important for me to get out of the space that I was in, feeling just swirly and chaotic. And I was just full of anxiety because now we had this debt and I felt like it was my fault. And I thought I was going to be better at this and I wasn't. And so I was just so desperate that it was like the investment was a no-brainer. I'm like, I don't care if I have to sell my clothes in order to make this happen. I will do it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that's necessary all the time, but I've also made $25,000 of investments in coaches and masterminds that have not given me the kind of return that I had. So it's I think it goes back to the step one is just making a decision that like you are going to put intention behind finding clarity in what you want. And then step two, like putting your money where your hustle is and saying like, this is the investment for me. And I'm going to do everything I can to squeeze everything out of it. Cause I have clients even that invest in me and then don't show up. And I'm like, where are you? Like, why are you giving me your money? Like, I'm going to take it because we have an energetic contract, but like, why are you giving money if you're not going to show up for yourself? Like the investment alone does not do the work.
Yeah.
And I carried that belief, especially as I started getting into these bigger masterminds. I'm like, okay, if I'm playing with the big boys, I'm going to be able to like, that's going to take my business somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, no. That's not how it works. This just means that you're going to get the level of support at someone at that level gets.
Yeah.
Needs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think I get it. Like, it doesn't matter what the investment is. Sometimes even $50 is a lot, but it really is like, it works if you work it and you have to be willing to work it.
Yeah. And what are you willing to put in to your business to move the needle forward, whether that's paying for something or actually, setting aside the time to, find the information for free. It's like, what are you willing to do? Like, are you willing to go all in on this idea, on this business, on what you feel called to? Because I think it's more of, it's like, are you willing to go all in? And then what does all in look like to you?
Yes.
And maybe it looks like that $99 investment. Maybe it looks like a $25,000 investment. Maybe it looks like spending 5 hours a week on your new idea, whatever it is. But I think as soon as you can make that shift in your mind, like, hey, we're doing this, like, now what do we do?
Yeah, 100%. And like, if you don't know what that looks like, just ask for guidance. Like, God's got you. Like, he's ready to support you. So ask for guidance in terms of like, make it super clear. Like, I ask for things. I ask for signs. I ask for, okay, I need to make a decision and I need to make it fast. And I want it to be super crystal clear that this is the right move. And you know what else I love to say? And like, this is kind of, I don't know who said this first, but it's something I regurgitate all the time. So I'm not going to say it's my quote, but it's something that I regurgitate a lot. And so people are saying like, it's my quote, but I don't think it is. There's no failure. There is only feedback. So if you operate from the space of like, I can't fail at this, or even if I invest in this for 3 months and I realize that this is not for me, that's feedback. And that will help you move closer. It'll help you in terms of understanding what your decision-making pattern was and like what made you think that it was the right move and what was the lesson ultimately. Like my $25,000 investment, I got great coaching. It was a great experience. I did get a lot from it, but honestly, it was my lesson in learning how to ask for what I need.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
And so I just say to myself all the time, like, there is no failure at this. There is only feedback. I think constantly of like Amy Porterfield, who's a titan in this industry. She launched one course over and over and over for the last 12 years.
Yeah.
And that's how she's made her business. She launches it, she refines it, she takes the feedback, she improves it, she relaunches it, and she just does it over and over and over. And like the best thing that we can do in this space is get our product or service to the market as fast as possible and just get in the feedback loop. Know that if you launch it the first time and only Aunt Susan comments on your post, that's okay. Figure out your messaging, figure out your product. Like, it's like, you gotta, I think so often, so many dreams are dying with people because they're out there like putting a post on Facebook and thinking that it's going to launch their business.
Yeah.
In reality, it's like so much more dimensional than that.
Yeah.
And they have to understand, like, we're not here to do a season's work. We're here to do a lifetime's work. And so we can accomplish so much more in 10 years than we can accomplish in 1 year. So just like put yourself out there and get in the feedback loop. Sorry, I took that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. That reminded me of, same thing. I don't know who said it first, but I do hear Gary Vee say it a lot, how we overestimate what we can do in a day, but we underestimate what we can do in a year. And it's so true. It's so true. And I feel like, if people can get a grasp on their time management and actually like where they're headed, like get that clarity on where they're headed, where do they want to end up at the end of the year, and then create the path to get there. It really is. It's very simple. It's not easy though, because it does take putting yourself out there, showing up every day, even when you're going through those lessons. And, it's the long game. It's, Well,
and especially now, I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves because of social media and like everything's a highlight reel and all that good stuff. But we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to like get it done and get it done right. And then like plug it into the marketing machine and then it just like blows up and we have all of this like, whereas like if we got really, really honest with ourselves about like what we want, how we want to feel each day and how we want what we want our life to look like. And then we start building our ecosystem around that. Like that's the whole point. Like I didn't get into entrepreneurship, yes, to have money, but the money ultimately would give me the feeling of freedom.
Yeah.
And if I am not feeling free in my everyday, and to me, freedom, just like the word that it translates in my mind, in my language, is spaciousness. Because I live in a land of chaos. And I love that like your message is all about simplicity and just like getting clear and moving. is that like, I need my life to feel spacious. And so that means in the summertime, I'm not hustling because I want to have fun with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm setting up my business model that way. And I'm setting up, my programs that way and my business and like batching content and doing all of those things, because that's what's ultimately, that's the feeling that I want in the first place. Doesn't matter how many zeros are in my bank account.
Yeah.
All that matters is that I'm living that now, because I don't want to wait until 10 years down the road when I finally have the millions in my account that I'm like, oh, okay, I can finally be free.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you had that when you worked at Nike and you didn't feel free.
No, I didn't. And so it's just so important. And one thing I said to Scott too, when I left, was just like, listen, I know exactly how much I'm going to be making in 10 years. Like, they literally do a map for you.
Yeah.
Like, this is your trajectory. You might get put on a rocket ship at some point, depending on what the initiatives are and things like that. But this is exactly where you're going to be. And so I looked at him and I'm like, what if I could at least double my income in 7 years? Like 7 years, like what would that look? And so I'm 2 years out. I'm like, what if I just doubled my income that I'm making now? Like wouldn't that be amazing? I couldn't do that at Nike.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and what's crazy is that I actually just got asked to speak there in my new role. It's like a full circle moment. I'm going back to the Women of Sales organization, which I was a part of, and I'm speaking at one of their key events.
Awesome.
And I'm just like, oh my gosh, wow. Like, I still want to quit every day because that's just the life of the entrepreneur. Like, I've taken 9 to 5 jobs more times in the last 2 weeks than I have ever. But yeah, it's just like, if there's one thing out there I can say is like, to anyone listening, to anyone who needs the motivation, to anyone who just is like, I need to like a spark of activation and inspiration. It's like, it's just one foot in front of the other.
Mm-hmm. It is. And okay, so you kind of brought this up in my interview for your podcast, but I want you to touch on it for my listeners, the whole clarity, confidence thing, what comes first. Yeah. I want you to touch on that.
Yeah, totally. So we have a lot of conversations. And in fact, I did a training not that long ago, like a 3-day series on like how to get unstuck. A lot of women come to me and they're just like, I just feel stuck. Mm-hmm. Right. And so the conversation started shaping around like, what comes first, the clarity of like what to do, or the confidence in I can do this. And, I went through this whole framework of like how to build more confidence and how to find more clarity, and like that you really do have to, the clarity only comes with action. Mm-hmm. And you have to have the confidence to go with it. But what I realized not that long ago is that there's 2 other C's that have to go with it. Mm-hmm. And that is, you have to have the courage first. You will not get confidence. You will not get, and this is like a much bigger conversation, but just to give you the high level overview, it's like, I had to have the courage to, number one, ask for a new path for myself, to be open to ideas for a new path for me. I could have stayed there. I could have done what I was doing. We would be living a great life. It would have been awesome. But I got to a space where I had to have a really courageous conversation with myself of like, I don't know what this looks like, but I know that something needs to change.
That's really good, because a lot of people would think, oh, I need the courage to post something on Instagram, or I need the courage to share my idea. But it actually starts like at a deeper level with actually having courage to acknowledge that you maybe want something different for your life.
Yeah, 100%. And so when I got into that space, I had the courage to say, okay, this isn't working. And this is this has been my identity for 17 years. Cause by this time I was 32. And so it was like, okay, this has been who I am. Like, I've been like the corporate girl for this long. I mean, I don't even know what I would shift into, and I'd have to completely rebuild and all that stuff, but I'm open, and I'm willing to say it's time to pivot, and I'm willing and open for magic. And then I remember the day that I quit, because this was a month. It took me a month to quit. Like, it took me a month I met with advisors. I'm like, am I crazy? Is this insane? Am I leaving this behind? And I needed somebody to say to me, like, don't go because you're the next CEO, right? Like, that's initially when I was like wanting them to say, which was not in fact the case. But I remember one day and I just said, okay, babe, I'm going to do it. And I had to get 15 seconds of courage to walk into my boss's office, like literally give myself a pep talk. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go quit my job. And it took me 50 interviews to get this job. Like, it was like,
Oh my gosh.
like, so here I am, I'm literally walking away and I don't know what it looks like, but I know that there's a bigger vision out there for me. And I'm going to jump. And so I got that courage and I walked in and I quit. And then, I started working and I had a lot of confidence and I had some clarity. And then I found myself in a mess again. Like it's all cyclical. That's like the biggest thing. It's like, you got to get courage and then comes the clarity or the confidence, pick your poison, right? And then it builds the clarity and the confidence. And then you have to stay consistent.
Totally.
You have to stay consistent, consistently getting back to the space of where do I need to find courage right now? Because then I needed help and I had to have the courage to make the investment to ask for help. And then I started getting clarity. I started building confidence. And then I just put it back in that loop. And now my life is just this series of like, okay, I have to find courage to say, okay, this is what's next. I'm going to launch this program. And then comes the clarity of like, this is who I'm going to serve. And this is the problem I'm going to solve for them. And then comes the confidence of like, okay, I'm putting it out there and the courage. So it's it is this like just pool of courage and confidence and consistency. And that consistency, like once we're in that loop, it starts compounding what we're doing.
Yeah.
And
it never ends.
Like, no, it doesn't.
So get ready.
Yeah, it doesn't.
But doesn't.
Understanding that is the key, because then you can just say like, where do I need a little bit more courage in my life right now?
Yeah.
And so like, so the moment that I feel stuck, the moment that I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall is like, what am I holding on to so tight that it's not even giving me the space to find courage? And where can I let that go so I can be courageous somewhere else and start moving forward? All it takes is like a little step to start building some momentum.
Exactly. That's something I always share with people because, I had no idea I would be where I am today. But had I not had the courage to, which it's funny because my first blog post, I mean, years ago, I had a different blog, like a coupon blog. But when I started my blog really to help inspire women, my first post was about taking the first step. And I had to have the courage to put myself out there to be like, yes, this is what I feel like I'm called to do. Buy the domain, do the post. And then I had to take that action and I had to have the confidence to put it out there. And then it gave me the clarity, like, okay, yes, like I'm moving in the right direction. And like you said, you just keep doing it over and over. And that little cycle sometimes like starts getting bigger and scarier and bigger and scarier. But if it's not, then in my opinion, like you're doing something wrong. If you're not like doing something scary,
Yeah. And
on a regular basis.
Yeah. And maybe that scary is like doing a Facebook Live. It doesn't mean to launch a whole program or a whole event. But like, I even think about like the women who come to you and are like, I need to find my purpose and I want to be as clear as you are, right? Like, I want to be doing what you're doing. And I'm sure you get that a lot because I get it a lot. Like, and I'm like, oh girl, you got to get in this loop. Like it's going to take you a minute. Now, depending on how much work you've done prior and how, like where you're at in your life, like some people get there a lot quicker, but nobody like creates their like keynotes and like platform in 5 minutes. It just doesn't happen. You have to start getting in this feedback loop at some point, somehow, in order to start crafting like who you are. You have to get social proof. You have to get uncomfortable. You have to find the courage. You have to do all of these things. So that way everything starts bubbling to the surface. And what happens in the meantime is that you build this belief that everything's working for you. Because if it's all about courage and it's all about getting the feedback and there's no failure, every hard thing, and I have been through some hard stuff in these last 2 years. I had a miscarriage, lost my cousin, like some really heavy marital stuff. Like I've been through a lot, and every single thing that I've been through is like, this is working for me. This is working for me. This is leading me to a more expansive version of myself. And how can I use this to serve others, to help others and all that? So
And how do you do that? Like, how do you have advice for someone who's going through some of those big, like not even have nothing to do with their business, but literally they're going through some really crappy life stuff? Like what is your advice to them? Like practical things they can do?
Yeah. So, there's some of these things that I've gone through have knocked me out completely. Like I shut down my business for 6 months when stuff happened with my marriage, because I just needed some time to heal. And I just needed to be tender with myself and like really, number one, I think it's really understanding yourself and what you need. So if that means like, depending on what you're going through, if maybe it's marriage stuff, maybe it's family stuff, or someone's sick, or financial stuff, or maybe just life feels really, really hard, like tuning into what it is that you need the most. And just giving yourself the permission to ask yourself that question. Like maybe it's, you just need a minute to yourself and you want to go take a shower. Maybe it's, you need to meditate or pray. Maybe you need to go for a walk, or maybe you just need to like burn it all to the ground. And that's what's true for you in that moment. And so you have to, number one, have the courage to listen to what your soul and what your heart is really telling you. And then also have the courage to follow it through and give yourself that space. And then it's just like, be tender with yourself. Like, again, like I operate from the space of this is a lifetime's work. And if I am not healed, I can only do as much as I can do when I am a whole person. And so if there's a part of me that is literally bleeding out, I have to honor that and just, and tend to it in a very tender way. Now, I've also given myself social media breaks. I've given myself, I go on vacations. I give myself space when I need it, because as you can tell, spaciousness is my word. But I think it's just really having enough of a relationship with yourself to ask what you need right now. And if that means, like, for some, that's pouring themselves even more into their business, because that's what brings them joy and gives them purpose. And so there's days where I'm just like, I'm gonna lock myself in my office and just like mess around with my whiteboard, like mind map things and do, like that really serves me. So being willing to ask yourself those questions and then follow what you hear. I think that's the best way to honor yourself during times of hardship.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Okay, so why don't you share with us now? I know you have a membership and you help female entrepreneurs. Do you feel like because of your network marketing experience, do you attract more network marketers?
You know what, you would think. I think because I'm not doing network marketing and talking a lot about network marketing right now, I am going to relaunch my business eventually, because I still use the products and everything, but I don't because I don't really talk about it a ton. I have, let's see, like in my membership, probably about 40% have a network marketing business or some sort of side hustle. But no, I work with, oh my gosh, I've worked with recording artists. I also work with women who love their jobs and just want to find more fulfillment in it, and also like open up their career path in a more deep way. So it's just women who are managing a lot of things and just need help, like finding that clarity. But no, I work with recording artists and photographers and brick and mortar owners. And it's literally such a gamut of people, especially in the membership right now. Like I have muralists and letterer people. It's literally, we're all over the place, and I love it because it's so diverse.
That's how mine is too. And I love it too. So what are your thoughts on when like a coach or an expert says like, oh, you need to niche down, you should just be serving one person? What are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like we're kind of in the same place.
Yeah, I think, I don't remember who said it, but I think it was on James Wood, or no. It was on Chris Harder's podcast. Somebody was like, in order to break through kind of like that invisible veil of success, you need to like niche down super hard and like poke one tiny hole through, right? Like just super laser focused. And then once you get to the other side, you can open up the umbrella and do all of these other things, which I think in my mind makes total sense. But I'm super clear. Like, I feel like I'm super niche down. My podcast is called Work Hard, Mom Hard. Everybody in my membership is a mom. So I do think that I'm niche down in that way, but I feel like female entrepreneurs, like I could say I'm a coach for coaches and creatives, and maybe there is a time for that, but it's not right now. Like, I just don't feel the need to, in order to, like, my business is great and I love it. And like, maybe if I feel like I need to like rocket ship myself, then I'll niche down and like serve only those people. But I don't know. I feel like right now I'm just in such a good space that I don't need to say like, I serve moms who have 3 kids who are, who are looking for clarity in the chaos. It's like, no, I just serve women who are managing a lot, who wear many hats and want to have the big vision and want to understand what it takes to really live into that.
Yeah. I love that. I know. And that's, I was only asking out of curiosity because I feel like you probably get the same thing I get, just because we are, I am serving a lot of different types of business owners, but I love business. You know what I mean? Like I have, and like you said, you have like the business skills and the management skills. And so I think it depends. I think maybe someone who comes in and they have an expertise in one specific area, then like they should stick to that. But I could sit down with somebody who has a brick and mortar shop and like totally set them up with a strategy and then I can sit down with an author and give them a strategy. And so it's hard for me to pinpoint or pick. I don't want to pick because I love it. So
I will say like, as I'm looking at my book, because my book is literally like each chapter is one of my processes. So it's like my book is my framework that I take people through. And it really does serve the like infopreneurs. So like the coaches and the people who are taking, and I will say like, even though a lot of these business owners have different businesses, they all have an element of teaching. And so I think that my framework works, and my course that I have that my membership has access to, it's really just for them. It really is for the infopreneurs who are like wanting to show up online and build an audience and those kinds of things. But it's the foundational pieces of it. It's like defining the ethos of your brand and your why, and like getting clear on what the problem is that you solve. Like there's some just basic things that I think if you're not clear on, you're not going to want to show up online or show up in your business on. And the number one thing is, what do you want in your life? Like, what is the kind of income that would make you feel most spacious right now? Like, let's forget about the $1 million. Like we'll build that. But like, if $5,000 a month is awesome for you right now, like let's come up with a strategy to build that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I love
that. So I feel like it's, I'm clear and it's niched, but it's also like surfing a lot of people.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an opportunity to get a little more clear in the copy and stuff like that.
I was at the Kajabi event last year and Brendan Burchard spoke there, and I got so much like peace and clarity from his talk. It was so nice. Did you go to that by any chance? Because they basically like every speaker that they brought in, they literally like asked them to really just serve and teach. And it wasn't like a sales pitch or anything like that. And so Brendan went through like, hey, if I was starting over today, this is what I would do. And he said like, people have niche marketing totally wrong. He's like, you don't need to niche your product. You need to niche like your message. He's like, so I created one product and then I have marketing to athletes and marketing to business people. They're literally all going through the exact same product he sells.
Yeah.
But his messaging and his marketing is super pinpointed. And I was like, okay, I really love that, because I do feel like what I offer can serve a variety of people, but I can get super clear on like who I'm talking to in like several different, marketing messages.
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, we could probably unpack that one concept for hours, because I totally resonate with that. And even it's like, then you talk about being a brand and Corie Clark, the brand, it's like, you don't have just your membership, you've got coaching, you've got your events, you've got all of these other things. And like, and then those have the branch outs of like, the event is good for this person and this person and this person. And so like, how do you wrap those? And then maybe those 2 people or those 3 people show up on different platforms. Like maybe some of them are on LinkedIn, and that's marketing towards someone, and then someone's on Facebook. And so it's like, that's what I love so much about, and I wrote this in my book. I'm like, listen, this is not the only way to do it. Like there's so much out there. This is just what I've seen in the patterns and the women that I've served, and like, take what you want from it. But there is like, I just think that it's like such a beautiful puzzle and like a beautiful tapestry of like, even in the coaches that I've worked with, I'm like, okay, I get stuff from Tony Robbins, and I get stuff from Colin Boyd, and I get stuff from Amber Lillystrom, and I get stuff from having conversations with people like you. And like, and it's all just a puzzle. Like there's not only one way to do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And if we can keep our mind open, so much more magic will seep through.
Yeah. Yeah. So. I love that. I love that. Oh, thank you. I could talk to you forever.
All right.
Oh, but I know we have to wrap this up. I know you have kiddos to go get soon, right?
Yes.
So tell my audience where they can find you.
Yeah. So Instagram is my jam. And my name is Kari Keating. And I love that you're CC and I'm KK.
I know.
So it's KariKeating. And then you can find me over on my website, kari-keating.com. And yeah, I mean, and that's pretty much it. Instagram is my jam. Like if there's something that in this conversation that really resonated with you, definitely DM us, take a screenshot, tag us. Like I love to get in my DMs. Like I will serve the crap out of people in my DMs, because the women who have the courage to ask the questions, I am like, yes, girlfriend, like I will help you find clarity. So I am in there all the time, just trying to slang some love and some support to anybody who needs it. So please feel free. Like the door is always open, and I would love to have the conversation with you guys.
I love it. Okay. I have 2 questions that I ask my guests. Okay. And I actually I realized I don't think I asked my last couple guests these questions, but what does living on purpose look like to you?
Living on purpose looks like to me taking radical responsibility for who I am and how I show up. Everything that I do, I understand there is a consequence, a reward, a risk, whatever it is, and I am the owner of that. So whether that be the way I talk, the way I think, the way I speak with my husband, the way I show up online and everything else, like I take radical responsibility. It's not anybody's responsibility for my success. It's only mine.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's so good. Okay. And then the last thing, we gave a lot of business advice, but if you were only allowed to give somebody one piece of advice that's a female entrepreneur, what would it be?
Get super, super clear on who you serve and the problem you solve for them. Do work around that. And once you are clear on that, it's easy to put a megaphone to it.
Yeah. I love it.
Yay.
Yay. Okay. Well, I'll link to all your stuff, your podcast and everything in the show notes, but thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This has been so amazing.
Yay. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening, you guys. I will put all of Kari's links in the show notes, as well as a link for you to grab your early bird ticket to Purpose Babe Live. And I will see you guys right back here next week on Purpose.